Okay, let's spend a few minutes going over the question number 14 from the review that we did last week in class. This is the one where we had a break-even crossover point question, and the question asked us in a multi-year scenario. In this case, we have a 4-year planning horizon with sales forecasts of 1,000, 2,000, 4,400, and 4,500 units. Which of these plans would make sense for the entire 4-year period? Now, we went over solving for the break-even point and crossover points for each of these plans to determine on any individual year which one would make the most sense. But what about the entire 4 years? The key to answering a question like this is understanding whether these fixed costs are a one-time upfront investment or whether these are annual costs. Normally, in a problem like this, it is going to be an annual. This talks about the plan for the year. So this is a plan for each year. Now, you may also have an upfront investment where you may have to spend $5 million to buy a piece of equipment, and then you would still have a fixed cost each year of running the equipment, running the plant, paying staff, employees, things like that that don't change for each unit that you make. So in this case, what we'll need to do is look at each individual year and calculate a profit or loss and just add it up. So let's do that quickly in Excel. You guys could certainly do this by hand with a calculator and a piece of paper on the test. But let's take a look at what we have here. We have each year, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have our units. In this case, we had 1,000. We had 2,000. We had 4,400. And 4,500. And now we have plans A, B, and C. And let's make this so that we can all see it a little bit better. Okay, so we know that our profit formula for any of these classic kind of profit examples is going to be our contribution margin, which in the case of A, if you remember, our sales price was $500, our variable cost per unit was $3, what makes it $200. We're going to multiply the $200 times 1,000 units. Well, in this case, why don't we just point that right over here, and we'll lock that down so we can copy it across to the right. And then actually, let's not lock it down there. Let's go ahead and lock it down after we've done that so that we can copy it across to the right. So let's multiply that times 200, and then what we're going to do is subtract our fixed cost, which was $50,000 in this case. So we know in this case that we have $150,000 in profit in the first year with plan A. We're going to just copy that down. We're going to sum it up. We're going to use our sum formula. Again, that certainly would be a pretty straightforward calculation. Now what I want to do now is I'm going to just drag this across, and since it's tried to use that 150, I'll move that formula over there. I could have used the absolute reference, but you also see in here that I need to change my formula for B. My contribution margin for plan C was my 500 cost minus my 200, my 500 sales price minus my 200 cost, or 300 for my contribution margin, and my fixed cost on plan B was not 50,000, now it's 500,000. Uh-oh, we lost money, lost $200,000. We'll copy that down, and we're going to bring this formula over here. So now you can see we're summing these up. So now, in this case, let's make all these in dollars, and let's get rid of those decimals. So you can see what we have now is we have a plan where A gives us a profit of $2.18 million, B gives us a profit. Again, this is the total profit for the 4-year period of $1.57 million. And we'll just copy this whole guy over here. And we'll just go in and edit our formulas. If you see here, we have our units needs to be over here to 1,000. But we also need to fix our contribution margin. In this case was 400 because we had a sales price of 500 and a cost of 100, if you remember from the problem. But now we had a $2 million cost, and we have our columns set so narrow here that it's kind of hard to see. Now let's move this over here a little bit so y'all can see it better, and then I'll widen that column up. All right, now we can see that we had, over this period, we had a $400 contribution margin at 4,500 units. 400 times our contribution margin, 400 contribution margin times our units, minus our $2 million in this case, gave us a loss of 200,000. So we're getting better, we're losing less money as our volume goes up, but we still, if you add up our profits for that period, we still have lost $3.2 million. So if we look at this, Plan A is going to be our best example. Our best option in this case over the 4-year planning horizon. Now that would be a little bit different if we just assume that that were a fixed cost, one-time upfront fixed cost. So if we were to take a look at our units, in this case we would just look at our units for the entire period, and let's just sum that up. It's going to be 11,900. Now in this case we can just take these same formulas and paste them down here, because if you remember, we have our contribution margin is 200, and if this was a one-time cost, the $50,000, same thing here, contribution margin of 300 and a fixed cost of 500,000, and a contribution margin of 400 and a fixed cost of our $2 million in this case. All right, so we can see here that in the case where this is a one-time cost, these fixed costs were one time, we end up with the best option is B. Now for the tests and examples that don't specifically say a one-time investment, you need to assume those costs are annual. So in that case, our best choice would have been A. Now in the case where that was a one-time cost, our best choice would have been B. Now if our units were much higher than this, you can see that this quantity on the 3 years begins to, let's say if we made it 15,000, you can begin to see we break even there, 20,000. And you can quickly see that the plan that makes most sense as volume gets bigger and bigger and bigger is going to be C. Okay, well hopefully that helps you guys and wasn't too overly confusing. And I look forward to seeing you guys in class. Okay, bye-bye.